Welcome to another outdoor episode of Chua. My name's Thomas, your host, and this is Andrew.
Hello everyone.
Can you introduce yourself, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm a science teacher. I worked with Thomas at Cecil Hills for a bit. I've been Yaguna, Bankstown, and hopefully soon we'll be neighbours and we'll be able to go around and cook with each other. But yeah, I really like cooking, really like watching anime. I feel like I'm a pretty basic
Asian
guy, yeah, very classic from the West.
I would like to live together if the interest rates gods allow.
Yeah.
All my older audience will feel that pain. All right, so I have another Vietnamese guest on, so I'm not very diverse, but another one. But Andrew's a bit different because I think compared to all of my previous guests, Andrew is a bit more involved with learning how to cook Vietnamese food. So he's a bit more well-versed in different cuisines, different regions, different seasonings, and he's further along his cooking journey than most other people. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, cooking in a lot of ways is science. Follow a recipe and there's a method to the madness, and there's a lot of experimenting as well, especially your taste buds and learning. It's nice.
It's a science. It's but you got to cook with feeling as well,
Yeah, you got to cook with feeling.
Cook with feeling. It's funny you say that. I do believe cooking is a science, but then something about cooking as well, when you develop your palate, that's memory. Because like our palates would be the same because our parents are from different regions of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, your palate also develops. And I think learning a recipe from your parents won't be exactly the same because our palates will have changed with different ingredients, different flavors. Even the temperature will change our palate as well.
No, that's true. Getting a little bit deep here, but I do feel like your taste is basically a memory map. And I feel a lot of famous cooks, they refer to it as a memory map. It is entirely based off of your experiences with food and experiences throughout life, from since you were born with your parents and living with your family and like living now. And definitely I feel like my palate is way different to my parents. We could use the exact same recipe for pho, but the end product and experience, I guess, is different. My parents will taste my pho. That, mind you, I followed their recipe and they'll say, hey, it's not good.
It's funny that you brought up pho and recipe. I think I told many people this before. Just wait for the planes to go by. It's Sunday morning at Chippo, so a lot of planes going by. So it's funny you brought up recipes and pho. The first time I learned how to make pho, I was in my early 20s, and I thought, shit, if mum dies tomorrow, who's gonna make me pho? Who's gonna be there to provide for me? So and that's when I brought up Luke Nguyen's recipe on SBS. It's still there, all right? And I followed his recipe and I made pho for the first time. I actually don't follow my mum's recipe because my mum's from the north, and her recipe is very, very basic, very clean, very clean from her region. So it's not compatible with a lot of Vietnamese flavors with the southern community here, right? So let's just delve into a pho, a pho nerds right now, right? Because a lot of my guests have said they want to learn how to make pho, and you and I have made multiple batches by now, right? So I'll let you go first. So what's involved in your recipe? Let's start from the meats, and then we'll go to your spices, and we'll go to your toppings.
Yeah, for sure. But actually, I want to talk about that point of your journey of wanting to learn pho in the first place. It's similar to mine. My mum, I remember she told me when my grandpa on my mum's side was in hospital, he would request pho, and that was his final meal pretty much. And as I got older and my parents started to get older as well, you start to think, maybe I should learn some of these key recipes.
Yeah.
Because look, my older brother, he's really good at a lot of things, but cooking for him is not a passion. He doesn't care so much about cooking, and so I feel my dad is really good at cooking. He taught my mum how to cook, and both of them sort of alternate cooking at home. And I felt like it was sort of my responsibility to learn some of these family recipes.
Of course, man. Once our parents go, it's what we. I think I've heard that once you forget the voice, it's like once someone that's passed, right? It's hard. You never forget food. That's something you can always recreate,
Yeah.
And I think I need to get started on this. I need to write down my parents' recipes, right?
Yeah.
And then that's the literal legacy. And then you hand it down to multiple generations, and then we keep adding on to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. My auntie on my mum's side, she has these really nice chicken wings that all the cousins really love coming over to her house for during parties. And I asked her for it. I consider myself close with this particular auntie. She said no.
Secret.
Yeah, she
it's a
straight up
secret,
said,
right?
Yeah, she straight up said no. And like I had always growing up, we lived next door to each other growing up, and I would always walk over and ask to borrow or have a few ingredients here and there. And I was quite surprised that she said no. And I thought she was joking around.
Mate, are you calling her your auntie? Because this is going to be translated to Vietnamese, right? And then she can listen to this.
I'm not sure to my cousins, but they'll know exactly what it means.
Wow.
But no, I think the reason why she's so secretive is because that's her legacy to pass on to her children. And I'm pretty sure each of them know the recipe. They've taken turns making the batches for parties and stuff like that. Yeah, they joke around, like ask them, and they're like, nah, you want chicken wings? You ask us for chicken wings, and we'll make it for you.
I remember asking Nathan about kimchi, and he says each family has their own recipe, right? So I've got my own pho recipe now as well. So it's like my own unique one that I'm going to pass on to my kids. So what's up in the beginning? So both, right?
Yeah. So bones first. If I'm feeling fancy, I'll go oxtail.
$20 a kilo now. People did I know? 20 a kilo. Yeah.
But look, my usual go-to is just like beef neck, or like beef. I guess like the shin bone. Yeah, like just the cheap beef bones. I get about 2 kilos for 10-liter stock. And there I get chicken feet as well. I get about like 500 grams, which is about 4 or 5 chicken feet. Just for the chicken fat. And that's pretty much it for my bones. Usual process, you will boil them or parboil them, clean it. And then once it's all clean, you chuck it into the stock pot and you chuck in everything else, the spice bag, some of the aromatics if you want to chuck that in. At that point too, especially like with the onions. I like the onions to be like charred. The ginger as well, be charred. That's nice. But yeah, I don't feel like I do anything too special. So I learned my recipe from my dad, and I learned it from my uncle. Same uncle as the auntie, and they have very similar recipes. And I think throughout the years I've just been experimenting, but that's basically it. Pretty simple. Like the chicken feet, they don't put chicken feet in there. Chicken feet, I just like the oil on top.
I think I put chicken feet in my pho because I got it from you. It makes a difference. It makes it more gelatinous, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, better for our skin,
Yeah.
So for your spice mix, do you use like a standard pho spice bag, or do you make your own blend?
So I don't buy the pre-packaged spice bag. My own blend. So star anise, dried cloves, cinnamon. I'm forgetting something.
Black pepper?
I've used black pepper, but I don't like the end result of black pepper when it's in
too long.
Inside of the pot. I like putting black pepper at the end. And the lava and coriander seeds. Yeah, that's it. So that's pretty much it. Nothing too unique.
I think what varies between family to family as well is the type of sugar you use. Some people use palm sugar, normal sugar, or rock sugar. So you rock sugar. And then also the brand of fish sauce.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too fussed on the brand of fish sauce. Just because, like, in terms of my palate for fish sauce, it is what it is. Growing up, I actually did not consume much fish sauce at all. It wasn't until like my early 20s that I started using fish sauce. And even then, it was like the sweetened version with the garlic and like some of the chili. But in terms of cooking, I really only use fish sauce to add like that depth. I found out through a lot of experiments the difference often between something tasting really, really nice and something that someone might have just followed the recipe for, and like is missing a key ingredient, is that sort of depth, the umami, like something fermented. When you ferment something, a chemical process happens, and you get this like really deep, rich flavor, which it's like sort of the finishing touch, if you will.
I wonder if there's a difference between the fish sauce brand. I need to do like blind taste test because there's price differences. So there's squid brand, which is $3 a bottle.
I've got that right now.
And then there's 3 crabs, $8 to $9, and there's red boat, which is about $12 a kilo for a bottle, right? So I use 3 crabs. That's my go-to, but it's pricey, man. It's $9.
Oh, it's the same idea with oyster sauce, right? You have different tiers of oyster sauce. Yeah, and I don't know the difference, to be honest. It tastes almost exactly the same to me. But I would do that blind test with you. I think that would be interesting. But that would mean we'd have to have 3 pots of pho. Probably not 10-liter stocks or anything like this, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My pho style has changed a lot. So when I had more time, I would go above and beyond.
Yeah.
I follow this guy named on YouTube, was Australian in Brisbane. His name's Leighton Pho, and he has his own pho restaurant, and he has an engineering background. So he actually put a lot of science and thought behind it as well.
Nice.
So his blend for bones is 1 kilo of bone for 1 liter of stock.
Right. Wow.
And then it goes for 24 hours, right? So the more bone you have on your stock, the meatier it is, right? No, it's not very cost effective at all, right?
Yeah.
And then the more depth of flavor you have just for the sweetness of bone. So that means you don't have to add too much sugar. You don't have to add too much hat nam, which is like a bone seasoning at the end, right?
Yeah.
So I've been doing something similar with chicken and pork instead for my pho. It's different, right? But the reason why I've been using chicken and pork a lot is because I've got a young family now. It's hard to look after a big stock pot of
beef
beef.
is expensive.
It's expensive and it's hard to handle and it's just not time efficient. So beef I let it go for 10 hours at least to get everything out, right?
Yeah.
But for chicken bones and pork bones, it's easier to handle, and I can let that go for 7 hours instead.
Yeah. Wait,
also-
so then, sorry, I wanted to ask, how do you feel about bone broth in a pressure cooker? In a pressure cooker?
Pressure cooker is good if it's just for like 1 or 2 portions and you're craving it. But then my thought behind it is that if I'm making pho anyway, I'm making 20 liters.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if I can find a pressure cooker for 20 liters, that's a bomb. It's a straight up bomb. But if I have used it before, I have.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're getting like 95% of the flavor. 95%.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah. That's right. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I think that once I've got my own family, I'll start cooking with the big pot again. But right now, it's like I get a craving for pho. I know that I can just buy bones.
Yeah.
I can bring it home, prep it, chuck it into the pressure cooker, and have pho for dinner.
Nice. Hey, you got a chest freezer?
I don't.
So the reason why I make a 20 liter stock is that my leftover, I freeze it.
Yeah.
Then I can just take it out of the freezer and we have it if we're craving as well. That's why I don't have a need for.
Yeah, I remember you recommended it.
Yeah.
I remember
Chest freezer.
when you got it, you were super excited.
So another thing about my own pho is that I watch a lot of different creators, right? And then some hacks I'm going to give you guys is that if you're doing your onions, your garlic, I add ginger as well. Sorry, no, I add garlic as well. Garlic's a big nut, but I like it because it adds natural sweetness, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find different sweetness where you don't need sugar, right? Rock sugar, as least as you can.
Yeah, true.
Add carrot
if you
and daikon sometimes as well, depending on what I have in the fridge, so I can use it.
No, I love carrot. I love spring onions as well.
Yeah.
Garlic, yeah, I've definitely seen because I mean, with the cooking time, the garlic breaks down, and it's not that really strong garlicky taste that many people, who knows, maybe you're thinking about right now. It's like actually a really nice, sweet.
It's
taste.
sweet, yeah. If you roast it long enough, it's sweet. I also add in coriander stems. So every time I buy coriander, I save the stems, and then I put in the coriander stems for the last half hour, and my spices also only the last 40 minutes. So I don't let it soak, right?
Yeah.
And then I turn off the heat and I season with fish sauce at the very end as well.
Right.
So all these are subtle differences to elevate your pho game.
No, in terms of the science, the timing of when you put in certain things does make a
huge difference. It does, yeah.
Like with the fish sauce, if you put it in at the beginning, it's not gonna come out, like you're not gonna taste it very much unless you put a copious amount at the beginning. You're not gonna really taste it.
It's a very delicate flavor.
It gets broken down
agree.
through the cooking process, and coriander stems. I haven't really tried that.
Try it at the end.
What does it do?
It adds this fresh herbal taste to your broth. That's the best I can put it.
Right, I see.
Yeah, it's very fresh. It's very like there's tuk bak, but not like that. It's herbal, but it's more fresh. It's more. It tastes like summer, if I could put it.
Yeah. You mentioned that your mum comes from the north, right? And like North Vietnamese foods, generally speaking, is not as flavorful.
I'm gonna call it clean.
Maybe I'll call it clean too, because I think not flavorful are fighting words. So.
Fighting words. If you guys want to try a North Vietnamese pho, it's different, but it's very Vietnam. It's clean. It's you go to Marrickville, it's called Pho Tin. In Marrickville, it's across the road from Woolies.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
Right, I see.
It's cleaner. They do use less spices and they use less sugar.
Yeah.
It's because if you've got good quality beef and good quality herbs and ingredients, you want to let those ingredients shine as well, so you can focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different. It's different palates as well. I think because up north they've experienced winter, and down south it's just hot all year round. That's why
Yeah.
the palates are different. That's why
Yeah.
because up north, because they experience winter, they don't have herbs for their pho. So there's no bean sprouts, there's no coriander, no Thai basil,
Yeah,
because they just
right.
don't have it year round. It's not available to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I never thought about it.
Yep.
I knew that because I've been to the north a number of times, and
Yeah.
yeah, like their winters are
Cold.
cold.
It's cold.
Yeah,
Yeah, China, bro.
No, I went to Japan recently for my honeymoon, and
nice.
there are a lot of North Vietnamese people
Working
living
there.
abroad and
Yeah.
working. Yeah, and so I went to this Vietnamese restaurant because I was craving Vietnamese food. We were there for a month, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had, was it like vermicelli noodles with
Yeah.
like their grilled beef?
Is it good?
It was decent. It was
Yeah.
different, and I wasn't expecting it to be different.
Yeah.
I wasn't actively thinking, oh, hey, this is not our usual sort of South Vietnamese restaurants that we're used to here in Sydney. It's a North Vietnamese restaurant. And I wasn't thinking about like the differences. I was quite surprised. Their nước chấm was not very strong, and like their pickles,
more
pickled
delicate.
carrots and daikon.
Yeah, it's more delicate.
Yeah, definitely a lot more delicate.
Yeah.
Change the taste too much, but just a pleasant surprise.
There's a
yeah.
lot of different North Vietnamese restaurants in Sydney. Might put a link that you guys can try out if you want. I'm based in around Marrickville.
Yeah.
That's where there's a big North Vietnamese community there.
Right. I mean, actually, whenever I speak Vietnamese to like my friends or just like peers,
Yeah, yeah.
really anyone, they always notice that I have a strange accent.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
like somewhere in between North accent and
Yeah.
Vietnamese accent.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it's because my parents, they were born in the north.
But they
So,
migrated south,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
they migrated south, and yeah, like they use some words that are from the north, and then they use some words that are from the
I
south.
think us being first gen, our accent's going to be very different anyway, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
At least we're not middle.
Yeah. The middle's so hard.
Sorry, very sorry if you're from the middle. I don't understand you.
It takes me a while. Like, my Vietnamese is not the greatest.
Yeah.
I feel it's one of those things where if I'm out of practice or
Yeah.
I'm not exposed to it for a while, it gets worse. But then the opposite's also true. If
Yeah.
I'm like in Vietnam, it gets like way better.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But even when I'm in Vietnam and I
Yeah.
come across like a middle accent, it takes me a while
It
to
does.
decipher.
Food helps. Singing helps. Karaoke helps. That helps, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to move on to my 5 main questions. Going overboard. So, my first one I think was, what's your favorite childhood meal?
Well, it's what we've been talking about.
yeah.
So it used to be like a three-way tie between like the main soup. So it
Yeah.
used to be like the rice drop noodles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Bánh canh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had like the beef noodle soup that's like spicy beef noodle soup.
Bún bò Huế.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then like your more traditional beef noodle soup pho.
Do you know bánh canh and bún bò Huế, so the other two, is not really very available in my parents' hometown village. They didn't have it.
Oh really?
Yeah, so I actually I make it in Australia.
Right.
So I actually never grew up with bánh canh. I make it for my wife now because she's
Yeah.
from the south, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bún bò Huế, it makes sense. Like it's in the name. It's
Yeah.
from Huế. Right?
Vietnam is so regional. It's so
Yeah.
diverse, you know.
Yeah.
If you're first born Vietnamese in Australia and you visit Vietnam, spend like 2 weeks there and visit everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
It's so diverse there.
Yeah. And like there are different variations of the same dish, like bánh canh, for example,
It's
rice drop noodles,
yeah.
like the seafood or crab version.
Of course, yeah.
And
No, just a pork version.
yeah, that's the usual one. Like my mom would use pork stock,
Yeah.
pork trotters for the bánh canh, and that was like the easy to prepare one.
Of course.
And then you have the
Grab one if you're
the,
fancy.
the seafood crab one if
Yeah.
you're more fancy.
If you're Ben.
Yeah. Oh, but I love that one. It's so good.
It is good.
And I think it's mostly because like I found I like really viscous
Yeah.
soups.
Yeah.
And you know they dip the rice drops in
Yeah.
flour. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also viscous from the starch. So they add a bit of starchy water towards make it more viscous.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But in terms of like my childhood favorite, it became pho because I sort of had like a traumatic experience with bánh canh and with bún bò Huế.
Yeah.
So bún bò Huế, like I was as a kid, I was pretty clumsy.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time, like my dad, he had prepared dinner for us. My mum was working at night. It was just
Yeah.
my brother, my dad, and I.
Yeah.
And usually we go from the kitchen to like the living room, and we sit together, we watch TV together, and we eat. Anyways, I was bringing it from the kitchen,
Yeah.
and I was looking at the telly, and I dropped it, and like full bowl of bún bò Huế which stains.
I can imagine the fear.
Yeah,
I
which
can imagine the
stains,
fear
yeah.
of having first first gen parents.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking die.
Yeah, it was crazy. Because like my dad,
Yeah.
he would come home from work like
Tired,
6.
you know?
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
a manual labor job.
Come
that kind of
home,
thing.
see his living room
Yeah.
place is messed up.
Yeah, he
I ain't dealing with this shit.
he gets changed. Like he doesn't shower after
Yeah.
like a long, hard day.
Yeah.
He preps the food for us, and then he eats, and then he showers afterwards.
Yeah.
So he's tired.
Wow.
And I drop it, and his first concern is not about my safety.
It's about the
It's about
the
the
mess.
fact that he has to clean up the mess. Yeah, and it's a waste of food because
Yeah.
like
migrants, bro.
yeah, migrants exactly. Yeah, so I got a big whooping for that.
Wow.
And Bankan, I just got like food poisoning from it once, and so yeah, pho was my favorite growing up.
I enjoy that my podcast is opening up childhood traumas. That's good.
Yeah.
It's called trauma bonding, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So for my second question was my second question is the family. What do you guys always eat together? If you set down family meals, because I think that was a very important aspect of my family growing up. We always shared meals together, and we always had pork belly tikka all the time. Yeah. So what was your family's go-to?
I guess the most common, which is basically the question, would be some sort of protein dish to go along with our rice.
Protein, veg soup.
Pretty much. In terms of our protein, we were quite limited because my brother was a picky eater.
Yeah.
I was less picky,
Yeah.
but I guess like on the meal, definitely towards that picky side.
Yeah.
And so my parents, they would stick to pork dishes.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
tikka, right?
Tikka.
Nice.
Tikka, surprisingly, was like one of the only braised foods that my brother and I would be willing to eat. We did not like braised chicken,
Yeah.
just because it had bones and it was inconvenient. We
That's my
did not-
wife, mate.
Yeah,
That's
we do
literally
not
my
like
little wife.
braised fish.
Yeah.
Like, just
Bones.
Like the bones, and then it enhances the fish taste. It's nice now, but back then we just didn't
I like how
it.
every Vietnamese gets asked, "Oh, bro, it's tikka." Eh?
Yeah. So tikka,
Yeah.
or my mom used to like, oh man, we were fat kids.
Yeah.
But she used to double up on the carbs. So she would do like the Viet dish is called quite day sao.
Yeah, I know what
so
that
it's
is.
just
Stir-fried potatoes.
Stir-fried potatoes
Yeah.
with beef and like onions and garlic.
Yeah.
Just like your usual stir-fry ingredients, oyster sauce, right? And yeah, it wouldn't be vegetables to go with the protein.
Yeah.
It would be, well, I mean, technically potatoes are vegetable, but
Yeah.
consider it carb in the kitchen. And so she would double up on that. My brother loved that. So he requested that a lot.
I can only hear it.
And she was so proud that like we were fast eaters as well.
Yeah.
Like she used to call me Tay Lim, like which is
Yeah.
like
Lick-
master at licking.
licking,
Yeah, 'cause,
Every
I'm, like,
mum ever,
clean the
bro.
bowl. Yeah.
Literally every mum ever. You hungry, mate? You hungry? Oh, better eat something.
Yeah.
All right. What's the most recent dish that you've cooked?
Most recent dish successfully cooked was like just like egg noodle soup.
Oh yeah.
With wontons,
Oh.
like homemade wontons.
Nice.
The most recent one, which was a couple of days ago, was like just air-fried noodles.
Nice.
Like really simple. I
Yeah.
had leftover egg noodles.
Yeah.
I had some vegetables as well, and just some proteins. But
Nice.
it wasn't successful because like, lazy cooking, just like eye measuring all of the sauce ingredients.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't taste it before I put it in.
Yeah.
And my quantities were off.
Yeah.
And so I made too much sauce for the
Yeah.
amount of noodles that I had, and it turned out to be more salty than I wanted.
Everything's a learning experience.
Yeah, that's right.
What's something you want to learn how to cook?
Learn how to cook. I mean, right now I feel pretty confident with like Italian cuisine.
Oh, yeah.
Pizza, pasta. I feel confident with like my Vietnamese, Chinese. Something I would like to focus more on is like Japanese cuisine.
Oh, yes.
I've ventured into there, and I've had a few successes. Like I'm really proud of my udon. It tastes like restaurant quality.
Yeah.
And it's easy to make. Ramen is something I always think about doing.
It's hard.
It's just such an endeavor. It's like even longer than pho.
Yeah.
But I think something I haven't actually focused a lot on, but I would like to get better at, is steak. I don't know why. Like it's just. So I bought a sous vide machine recently,
Yeah.
and I think that will be my answer for making like solid steaks.
Yeah, you can.
but it's just I don't know much about the cuts. I haven't done my research into
Yeah.
the different cuts and like the differences between them. I'm hesitant because beef is expensive and like I could buy so many other
Yeah.
things for the price of beef.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't maintain my cast iron.
Yeah.
My oven right now actually
Yeah.
in the main kitchen is not working, and we are in the process of replacing
yeah.
that, so I can't like do
Yeah.
a reverse sear or anything. So I think sous vide is going to be my answer, because then I can cook it internally and then I can finish it off maybe
think,
on the barbecue or something like this.
Well,
But
I think for steak, right, you should get a skirt steak. It's
Yeah.
because it's quite cheap. So
yes,
inside skirt.
see, like, I don't even
outside
know
skirt.
what a skirt steak is.
Go to the butchers.
Yeah.
I saw normal butchers would sell a normal skirt steak, which is okay. But
Yeah.
if you go to a specialist butcher, meat emporium, you can get a inside skirt steak.
Yeah.
And that's very forgiving because it's just 2 or 3 minutes aside.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
very forgiving, and you can
Right.
use marinades as well.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, right, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's something I really like growing up. Like my mom would get, I guess, like really thin, not the beef scroll
Yeah.
level thin, but
Yeah, yeah.
like 2 minutes aside.
Yeah.
And like pan fry that with maybe a marinade.
Yeah. Steak is something you just got to keep practicing. And thankfully, I learned it before our cost of living crisis. It's quite expensive now.
Yeah.
But I told most of my peers that I reckon I would have burnt like hundreds in steak before I
Yeah.
half decent now.
Yeah.
So
I
you
hate the
just-
smell. Like
Yeah.
I don't have an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
Both of my kitchens are indoors. The studio
Yeah,
one
yeah.
is less forgiving because we don't actively live in the studio.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Still a pain because it lingers for such a long time.
Maybe on weekends you can just cold barbecue it, bro. Cold
yeah.
barbecue.
No, that's what I was thinking.
On, like,
cold
Sundays?
barbecue. Yeah.
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 Wow,
No.
steak's the best, man.
Yeah.
All right. What's my last one? My last question is, what's your favorite restaurant in Sydney, and what's your normal order?
Oh, to be honest with you, Kathy and I are pretty basic in terms of our restaurant choices. We prioritize convenience. Like at a certain point where like the food is decent,
Yeah.
we then start prioritizing convenience over like going that extra level
Yep,
of
yep,
like
yep.
taste. So locally for us, obviously it's dependent on like cuisine, but one of my favorite restaurants to go with Kathy is actually Vinfat.
Oh, Cabra.
Cabra. Yeah.
No, man, gotta line up those stairs, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, obviously there's the morning and lunch
Yeah.
yum cha choice.
Yeah.
And then there's like at nighttime the more traditional like Vietnamese, Chinese dishes.
Yeah.
But my family and I never went to Vinfat like at nighttime. We would only go
For
during
yum cha?
the day. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
And it became like something really revered, I guess,
Yeah.
like for myself and I'm assuming my brother as well, just because we didn't go there very often.
Yeah.
And then once I started dating Kathy, like her family goes there like once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, not so much now that we've moved out, but yeah, it was quite often before.
Nice.
And it was just like discovering this other side of restaurant I really liked before.
Literally at a different time, literally.
At a different time, yeah. Less customers.
I've actually never been there at night. I might
Yeah.
tell my parents to go one day for like a birthday or something.
No, it's decent for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my preferred.
All right, man. Good chat.
No, this is good.
Good having you on.
Thanks for having me.